Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it is officially WrestleMania week, and it doesn't even feel like WrestleMania week because there is no hype going into WrestleMania on Saturday and Sunday. No hype for it. And I know probably a lot of you probably forgot that WrestleMania is this weekend. But tonight was Monday Night Raw's go-home show for WrestleMania, and I called it on Friday in my SmackDown and AEW Rampage review. I said that I wouldn't be surprised if WWE names Monday Night Raw WrestleMania Raw, considering we got SmackDown being called WrestleMania SmackDown on Friday, this upcoming Friday. So that's what they did. I called it. I was right. They ended up calling Monday Night Raw tonight WrestleMania Raw. It's like they want to tarnish the WrestleMania name. Oh, because it's WrestleMania week, and we need both our brands to be named WrestleMania. Let's have WrestleMania Raw, WrestleMania SmackDown. Are we going to get WrestleMania Backlash also this year again? Wouldn't be surprised. But Monday Night Raw tonight, my God, this show was a complete fucking disaster. This was one of the worst, laziest go-home shows, in my opinion. And we had a 4-man commentary table tonight. We had Corey Graves, we had Michael Cole, we had Jimmy Smith, and Byron Saxton. And this felt like a Monday Night Raw SmackDown Super Show. But look at the card that we had for Raw tonight. Look at this. We had Rey Mysterio versus The Miz. We had Omos versus the Viking Raiders in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Once again, Omos in a 2-on-1 handicap match take out Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz, and they put in the Viking Raiders. The same fucking match that we saw last week. Only it did not have Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz. We had an 8-woman tag team match. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Naomi, and Sasha Banks versus Carmella, Queen Zelina Vega, Shayna Baszler, and Natalya. These women are going to be competing in a fatal 4-way for the women's tag team titles. They just gave the match away tonight on Raw. We had Austin Theory versus Ricochet. I was about to say Finn Balor. Finn Balor wasn't even on the show tonight. And isn't it a shame that Finn Balor doesn't have a match at WrestleMania? Neither does Damian Priest. But yet, we have Logan Paul in a match. And then we had Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss, 2-on-1 handicap match. Why are we going to be seeing this when Corbin and McIntyre are having a match at WrestleMania, which isn't a WrestleMania-worthy match? Shouldn't even be at WrestleMania. It should be on a random edition of SmackDown. And in the main event, we had the Usos versus RKBro. Yeah, this sounded like a good hype go-home show to get you hyped for WrestleMania this weekend. Show was awful. This show was a complete fucking disaster. Absolutely lazy. It's like WWE Creative took the night off. They were like, oh yeah, let's just throw these matches on here. We got nothing for Raw tonight to get the fans hyped up for WrestleMania this weekend. Here you go. Bunch of random matches. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with the WWE Champion, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar marched down to the ring. He was wearing his cowboy hat. He raised the title in the air. He was greeting the fans as he made his way down. We had a video package showing what happened on SmackDown on Friday between Lesnar and Reigns, where Lesnar ended up walking into Reigns' locker room suite, just hanging out in there. So after that was done, we had Brock Lesnar. He was in the ring. He got on the mic. He ended up saying, "Good evening" to Pittsburgh. He announced that the champ is in the house. Lesnar ended up saying that for the last 20 years, that loudmouth, Paul Heyman, has been doing all the yapping for him. And he's got to do this for us. So Lesnar yelled out and welcomed everyone to Monday Night Raw. Lesnar ended up saying that felt good, but it felt like it sucked. So he won't be doing it again. Lesnar wanted to say that what he doesn't suck at is giving out country ass kickings. Lesnar wanted to say that this Sunday at WrestleMania, he's about to spoil his game plan to Reigns. But him and Reigns are going to take a trip down memory lane. And Lesnar was getting what chants from the crowd. And Lesnar ended up saying about the fans chanting what, he ended up saying they can play along like that if they want. Lesnar ended up saying that they're going to take a trip down the roads of Suplex City and introduce him to the Beast of Broadway. Then hit the carnival and go for a ride on the F5. And no one survives a ride on the F5. So fans were chanting what to Lesnar again. So Lesnar was just laughing at the fans chanting what to him. And so Lesnar ended up saying, yes, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be there too. And he's also an ass kicker. But he didn't kick his ass. He never kicked Lesnar's ass. So Lesnar ended up saying, enough of the chants. He ended up saying him and Reigns will be wedding crashers. And that his title will have a baby with the Universal Championship, which Reigns carries, of course. And that Lesnar gets full custody. Lesnar ended up saying that he's in a great mood tonight because in 6 days, he finally gets his hands on the tribal chief. And that there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Lesnar ended up saying that he will stand over Reigns, raise both the titles, both the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship in the air, and they will announce him as the new champion, Brock Lesnar. So Lesnar ended up marching up the ramp, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, Lesnar here, you could tell that there was nothing much more that Lesnar could say about Reigns. I mean, pretty much, he basically, said what he had to say, to Reigns. This whole feud between the both of them. So I feel like there was nothing else that Lesnar could have said, to Reigns, because we already got the match, at WrestleMania this weekend. So that's what I felt like. Like that, there was nothing more that Lesnar could say. And then we saw a video that was posted on WWE social media, and it was Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins visited WWE headquarters, and he visited Vince McMahon's office, which this took place this morning. So Rollins didn't end up holding the show hostage tonight like he said he was going to do at the end of Raw last week, where he was like, "Oh, if I don't get my WrestleMania opponent, I'm going to hold the show hostage." To which that didn't happen tonight. So Vince ended up saying that Rollins will have his WrestleMania match, but he won't find out the opponent until he's standing in the ring waiting, which of course, obviously, it's going to be Cody Rhodes. And there was other names I saw online that were being thrown out by people. I saw one person say, oh, it might be Elias. Oh, return Elias. Oh, it might be Gable Stevenson. No. It's Cody Rhodes. It's obviously going to be Cody Rhodes. And I saw some people saying, oh, Cody Rhodes was going to appear on Raw tonight. He's going to be revealed as Rollins' opponent. No. Why would you have Cody Rhodes come on tonight, just for, oh yeah, Seth, I'm your opponent. You're going to be facing me at WrestleMania. Which obviously they're keeping Cody for WrestleMania. They're going to debut Cody at WrestleMania, and we're going to get Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. And then we had the first match of the night, The Miz versus Rey Mysterio. So Miz ended up coming out, got boos from the crowd. So we saw how Miz ended up taking down Rey last week, and how Miz ended up ripping off his mask. And then he dared Logan Paul to wear it this week. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Miz was on the mic. Miz ended up saying that he doesn't have Rey's mask tonight because he gave it to the real greatest luchador in the world. So Miz ended up calling on the fans to help him welcome Lucha Logan. So out came Logan Paul wearing Rey's mask from last week. Logan Paul looked like a freaking idiot with Rey's mask on, just coming out there like that. So Miz ended up calling Lucha Logan Paul, the greatest luchador in history. He ended up saying that unmasking Rey was the most disrespectful thing he could do to Rey as a luchador, and he will keep taking disrespect because he's not getting it. So Miz went on to say that he will take his own mask from Rey and wear it at WrestleMania. This was awful. This was absolutely awful. So then out came Rey and Dominic. So Dominic ended up coming into the ring. He tackled The Miz, started loading some punches to The Miz. Logan Paul, a coward, retreated out to the floor. Rey ended up stalking Logan Paul. Paul ended up running back into the ring and out to the other side to the floor. Rey and Dominic ended up swinging at Logan Paul, but Logan Paul ended up making it out to the floor. So then the referee ejected Dominic to the back. So now it was just Rey out there and Miz and Logan Paul. So Logan Paul was, still going to be out there. So Logan Paul and Miz end up taunting the Mysterios from ringside. The match ended up starting. Miz ended up working on Rey. Rey countered out of the corner, started unloading on Miz. He ended up delivering a Hurricanrana to the Miz. Rey then delivered a baseball slide onto Logan Paul at ringside, and Rey ended up chasing Logan Paul around the ring. Miz ended up catching him and ran Rey spine first into the barricade. So Miz then ended up dropping Rey on the floor with the DDT. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rey ended up delivering a senton off the top to the Miz. And he was working the Miz over, but Miz ended up rolling Rey up. Rey rolled through and ended up kicking Miz as Logan Paul was still watching on from ringside. Miz and Rey ended up tangling, and Rey ended up blocking a powerbomb from the Miz. Rey ended up getting the pin on Miz, and there you go. Rey Mysterio ended up winning the match. Post-match, Logan Paul ended up staring Rey down from ringside. Dominic ran back out. He ended up rolling Logan Paul back into the ring for a double 619, but Logan Paul ended up scrambling out to the floor. Once again, Logan Paul being a coward. So we had them snatching Rey's mask back from Logan Paul. So Miz was concerned in the ring because Rey and Dominic had Miz cornered. So they ended up hitting Miz with the double 619 right in front of Logan Paul. Dominic then ended up going up to the top, and he delivered a splash on Miz, and then Rey followed that up. Rey did a little Eddie with the, like that, in tribute to Eddie Guerrero. So Rey ended up hitting a splash of his own on the Miz, and that was that. Overall, this was awful. This match was awful. Nobody cares about the Mysterios versus the Miz and Logan Paul. Yeah, we have Logan Paul teaming with the Miz. We have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. And we also have Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. But yet, we have, them, Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, and Johnny Knoxville in matches at WrestleMania. Yet WWE can't fit Finn Balor or Damian Priest on the card? Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Nobody cares about the Mysterios versus Miz and Logan Paul at WrestleMania. That is a bathroom break match. And then we had another coming soon vignette for Veer Mahaan. Veer Mahaan is coming next week to Monday Night Raw. He's re-debuting on the Raw after WrestleMania. So there you go. Veer Mahaan is finally coming. And then we had the Viking Raiders versus Omos 2-on-1 handicap match. Same match that we got last week, only take out Apollo Crews and Commander Z's and put in the Viking Raiders. So this was just Omos just burying the Viking Raiders here. So he ended up burying Eric. So the match ended up starting. We had Omos end up coming out. And then the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, came out after the commercial. So Eric started a load on Omos. Eric ended up charging at Omos, but Omos ended up taking him out. Eric charged again at Omos, but Omos ended up delivering a right hand to Eric, sending him out to the floor. So Eric looked to be hurt as he was selling his injury. Ivar ended up coming over to check on him, and the referee ended up counting out Eric, so Omos won the match by countout. Who cares? So post-match, Ivar ended up coming into the ring. Omos ended up knocking him right back out to the floor. And then Kevin Patrick ended up interviewing Omos. And Kevin Patrick was pointing to how Omos is undefeated and hasn't been knocked off his feet. He ended up asking Omos if there's any superstar that can threaten him at WrestleMania. So he ended up saying that he's undefeated and will dominate everyone, as what Omos said. And Kevin Patrick ended up asking if there's anyone that he respects. And then we had Bobby Lashley, the almighty Bobby Lashley, ended up returning. So he ended up coming down to the ring. He marched his way down. Omos was staring him down. Lashley was pacing while he was staring at Omos. Lashley ended up nodding at the WrestleMania sign. Omos sent him into the corner with one hand. Lashley ended up fighting back, but Omos ended up manhandling Lashley by his head, sending him into another corner. So Lashley was charging at Omos, and he couldn't knock the big man down. Pretty much Lashley was basically running into a wall when, these superstars try to knock down the big guy and they can't. It's like they're running into a brick wall. So Lashley ended up ducking a clothesline, and he knocked Omos off his feet. So Omos ended up going out to the floor. He yelled back at Bobby Lashley. Omos yelled back to Lashley, "Oh, you don't want any of this." So Lashley ended up yelling back, and the fans were chanting for Lashley. Lashley ended up pointing up at the WrestleMania sign, and Omos ended up agreeing. So we're going to be getting Bobby Lashley versus Omos at WrestleMania. Talk about another bathroom break match there. So on commentary, they end up saying that this was Omos' first time being knocked off his feet. Man, what a boring match this is going to be. Omos versus Bobby Lashley. Bathroom break. If any of you want to take your bathroom breaks during this match, there's going to be a lot of bathroom breaks during this WrestleMania. And then we saw Reggie and Dana Brooke backstage. You already know how awful this is going to be. So Reggie had something on his mind. Dana Brooke ended up reassuring him that he can come to her with anything. So Reggie ended up dropping down on one knee, and it looked like he was about to propose to Dana Brooke. But Dana Brooke ended up interrupting, saying, "This is so sudden." Reggie ended up saying that they don't have to wait until this weekend to have their WrestleMania moment, and that they can have one right now. So Reggie ended up pulling out a ring, an engagement ring, and he ended up proposing to Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke ended up saying yes, but then here came Tamina. Tamina barreled through both Dana Brooke and Reggie, and she ended up going to pin Dana Brooke for the 24/7 title, but Reggie ended up making the save, and him and Dana Brooke ended up running off together. Akira Tozawa ended up showing up. Akira Tozawa was not dressed in his ninja suit. He was dressed up in a regular suit. And Tamina was about to yell something at Akira Tozawa, but Akira Tozawa ended up saying that he heard Reggie was about to propose to Dana. Tozawa then dropped down to one knee. He ended up proposing to Tamina with a ring. And Tozawa ended up saying to Tamina that she is his earth, his also wind and fire. So Tamina ended up interrupting Tozawa, ended up yanking him up by his collar, and ended up asking, what does he think? Tamina looked like she was going to smack Tozawa, but she ended up stopping. She held her hand out so Tozawa can put the ring on her finger, and Tamina ended up saying yes to Tozawa. So Tozawa ended up having trouble getting the ring on. He ended up wetting it a little bit, and ended up sliding it on Tamina's finger. So Tozawa and Tamina were smiling. They ended up heading off together. R-Truth was hiding in the background with a referee, and he was watching all this go on. And so R-Truth ended up saying, "Oh, that gives me an idea." And that was that. Hey, who cares about this? This was awful fucking television. Every single time, these guys, these superstars, whether it's Akira Tozawa, Tamina, Reggie, Dana Brooke, and R-Truth, every time they're featured in a segment that revolves around the 24/7 title, you already know it's going to be shit. They need to seriously retire this title. Every time it gets featured, it is awful fucking television. So what is this? Oh, we're going to get a wedding between Dana Brooke and Reggie at WrestleMania, and also Akira Tozawa and Tamina at WrestleMania? Are we going to get one on night 1 and one on night 2? God help us all if that ends up taking place. Like, WrestleMania can't get more worse if this happens. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. And now we had the Bloodline end up coming out. The Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, the Usos, Paul Heyman, they end up coming out. So Reigns ended up getting on the mic. He ended up calling on Pittsburgh to acknowledge him. He wanted to say that he was going to come out and shine on us. Talk about God mode. Talk about being the last needle mover. Talk about how he used to run Monday Night Raw until Fox begged him to come save SmackDown. And I'm saying those are all facts, all true. So Reigns got the what treatment from the crowd. Reigns ended up saying he's done all there is to do in this business. He ended up saying that if fans keep giving him the what treatment, he's going to smash them all like he would Steve Austin. Just like he is going to smash Brock Lesnar. So Reigns then continued. He ended up saying that he's done everything except beat the Beast at WrestleMania. And that pisses him off. So the fans were chanting Suplex City. So Reigns ended up saying that if the crowd wants to talk about Lesnar, let's do it. Reigns went on to say that what bothers him about Lesnar is how Lesnar was out for blood a few weeks ago. He ended up saying that it was personal to him, but he's already spilled Reigns' blood. Reigns ended up recalling how he was busted open by Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. So Reigns ended up going on about how Lesnar making him bleed all over New Orleans, and his father was disappointed. His wife wanted him out of the business, and so on. Reigns ended up saying that they're going to take everything from Lesnar. He ended up saying that he's already taken Lesnar's advocate and upgraded him to special counsel. So Reigns ended up going on about taking Lesnar's blood at Madison Square Garden. And I'm saying that this Sunday he will make the final move by taking Lesnar's title. Then Lesnar will know what it feels like to make it personal, because Reigns will make it personal because it's always been personal to him, to Reigns. So that was how the segment ended. But Reigns, he came to save Monday Night Raw only for this segment. The rest of the show, complete disaster and a clusterfuck. And then we saw Carmella and Zelina Vega backstage. Both of them were glad to be on the same page going into WrestleMania. Both of them end up laughing about the cheap shots they did on the other woman last week who were going to be in the Fatal 4-Way match with them at WrestleMania. So Shayna Baszler and Natalya end up showing up. And they end up telling Carmella and Vega to follow their lead and let them win the 8-woman tag team match tonight. And then maybe they'll let Carmella and Vega live long enough to see WrestleMania. So that was basically that. And then it was announced that the Steiner brothers are going into the Hall of Fame. And the Hall of Fame is this Friday. It's going to be on after SmackDown. So there you go. The Steiner brothers are getting inducted. And then we had the 8-woman tag team match. Sasha Banks, Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler, Natalya, Carmella, and Zelina Vega. This was awful. This was boring. This was basically WWE telling us, oh, we're going to give you the match free when the same competitors are going to be in the Fatal 4-Way match at WrestleMania. They just gave away the match here tonight on Raw. Only the women's tag team titles weren't on the line. Absolutely pointless. So we had Sasha Banks, Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Liv Morgan end up coming out. And as Maya Raw came back from the commercial, we had Baszler, Natalya, Carmella, and Zelina Vega all in the ring. The match ended up starting. Liv ended up going to work on Natalya. Rhea Ripley ended up coming in, delivered a basement dropkick to Natalya. Naomi ended up coming in, and Natalya ended up fighting her off. Baszler tagged in, worked on Naomi while Natalya was holding her. And of course, once again, later on, Carmella went over to her husband, Corey Graves, or soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves. So Rhea Ripley ended up, tagging in, and she ended up hitting the riptide on Zelina Vega. So pretty much that was that. Sasha Banks, Naomi, Liv Morgan, and Rhea Ripley end up winning the match. Overall, completely pointless match. Why give the match away on Raw when these women are going to be competing in a Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania? This made no sense. And then we had a video package for Stone Cold Steve Austin for his career. And it was set to Bawadaba by Kid Rock. I think that's how you pronounce the name of the song. Bawadaba. So I think that's how you pronounce the name of the song. So it was a very well put together video package for Austin. And just, bring back great memories of that time when WWE was good and the creative was, awesome, and the product, was great, during the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, when Austin was there before he retired after WrestleMania 19, his match with The Rock. But missed those times. I grew up watching Austin and The Rock and all those other superstars there. That was an awesome time to be a wrestling fan as a kid. But, AEW has, born back a little bit of that era of WWE now, with Dynamite. But great video package by Austin. Very well done, very well put together. WWE's production department in creating these video packages are very good. And then after the video package, Kevin Owens was in the ring. Kevin Owens was mocking the video package of Austin as being nowhere near as good as his tribute to Austin last week, where, if you remember last week, Kevin Owens came out and he started off Monday Night Raw, just looking like Austin, wearing an Austin 316 shirt and the ball cap, which looked pretty bad on him because you saw little bits and pieces of the ball cap. But that segment was, the best segment on Monday Night Raw last week. Everything else on that show last week was complete dog shit. It was awful. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that he heard people say he was somehow mocking Austin. But those are lies. And so Kevin Owens was getting the what treatment from the crowd. So Owens ended up saying that last week he was just paying homage to the great Stone Cold Steve Austin we all love and remember. Owens ended up saying that he knows everyone is ecstatic Austin is his guest on the KO show in the main event of WrestleMania. And so is he. He ended up saying, but last week he was doing everyone a favor because that is the closest we will ever get to the old Stone Cold that we used to admire. Owens ended up saying that Austin has been gone 19 years and he's never coming back. He ended up saying that it will be Steve on the KO show, not Stone Cold, but the same Steve that has been drinking himself into oblivion for 19 years. The same Steve who is so bored he begs people to come on his little podcast so he can talk about the good old days and make him feel relevant again. Owens ended up saying that Steve isn't coming to pick a fight because he knows what would happen if he does. He's coming to the KO show to have another little chat about his career. Owens ended up saying that he's glad Austin accepted his invitation and that he will give Austin the biggest platform he's ever had, make him feel good, and then give him the send-off he thinks he deserves. So Owens then ended up saying that he's going to do something special for Austin. He ended up saying that he hates beer and thinks beer is disgusting, and that he's going to drink one with Austin. Owens ended up saying that they can toast to Austin finally officially passing the torch to Kevin Owens as not only the new Stone Cold, but the one true master of the stunner. Because Austin 316 says, "My stunner is better than yours. So Owens ended up asking the fans if they think his stunner is better. Give him a hell yeah. So some fans end up booing Kevin Owens. So Owens ended up warning Austin there will be a stunner, and that Austin will be on the receiving end if he tries to get funny with Kevin Owens. Owens ended up saying that if Austin tries to pick a fight, he will pour one of Austin's beers on his lifeless carcass. And that's the bottom line, because KO said so. And so that was how the segment ended. But this was a okay segment here with Kevin Owens. Austin coming on the KO show at WrestleMania. And then we had Ricochet versus Austin Theory. This was a quick match here. Ricochet ended up coming out, and then Austin Theory ended up coming out. We had a pre-recorded backstage promo with Austin Theory. Theory was talking trash about Ricochet and his opponent, Pat McAfee, at WrestleMania. So the match ended up starting. Theory ended up taking control, and fans were chanting for Pat McAfee. Ricochet ended up finding out the corner, started unloading on Austin Theory. So Ricochet ended up delivering a kick from the apron to Theory, and Ricochet ended up springboarding in from the apron with a clothesline to Austin Theory. He then ended up hitting a standing shooting star press, and he went for the cover. Austin Theory ended up kicking out at 2. So Austin Theory ended up hitting the ATL on Ricochet, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Austin Theory ended up winning the match. Post-match, Theory ended up taking his phone. He ended up snapping a few selfies with Ricochet. And that was that. But Ricochet, this is the 3rd time this week that he has lost a match. He lost twice on SmackDown. He lost to Angel and Humberto on SmackDown on Friday. And now, tonight, he lost to Austin Theory. And this is your Intercontinental Champion, guys. Let that sink in. This is your Intercontinental Champion. And Ricochet is losing. Typical WWE. Making their champions lose. So when is Ricochet's contract up? Hopefully Ricochet's name is on the next list of releases of superstars. He needs to get out of WWE because of how they are booking him and treating him. This guy is the Intercontinental Champion and he's losing. Ricochet's contract needs to be up. Hopefully he's on the next set of releases and he gets out of the company and goes to AEW. I think if Ricochet signs with AEW, he will do great there. WWE does not deserve a guy like Ricochet. And then we had Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair ended up coming out and she ended up returning because, 2 weeks ago on Raw, Becky Lynch ended up using a steel chair on Bianca Belair, driving her into the ring post. So Bianca ended up getting on the mic. She ended up saying that she shouldn't be talking right now due to her throat injury, which, that's what Becky Lynch did 2 weeks ago on Raw when she ended up driving Bianca into the ring post with the chair wrapped around her. But Bianca ended up saying that she really has to address this. Bianca ended up bringing up how Becky talked last week and how she'd do anything to keep the title. Bianca ended up saying that she found out 2 weeks ago how low Becky Lynch would go. She ended up saying that her success threatens Becky Lynch. She ended up congratulating Lynch on taking her out for just a week. But Bianca ended up saying that she's back like she never left. She ended up saying that this has been going on too long, which of course dating back to SummerSlam, in which Becky ended up beating Bianca in 19 seconds and reclaiming the Raw Women's Championship. She kept saying that Becky Lynch has tried everything in the book to make sure that the title stays with her. She kept asking what else Becky Lynch has up her sleeve. Bianca kept saying that Becky has nothing because she will march into WrestleMania and take the title, and there's not a damn thing Becky can do about it. So then we had Becky Lynch's music end up hitting. Bianca was waiting for Becky, but Becky ended up coming from under the ring, and they started brawling. Bianca ended up beating Becky Lynch down the corner. Becky Lynch ended up dropping Bianca with a big knee. So Becky ended up delivering a chair shot to Bianca's gut, and then one over the back of Bianca. So Becky then ended up having this little bag. And the bag was a pair of scissors. So Becky ended up pulling out the pair of scissors. She was reminding Bianca that she said she was coming for her hair. So Becky ended up trying to cut Bianca's braid off, but Bianca ended up powering Becky up into the KOD, which she ended up delivering the KOD to Becky. So Bianca was seated. Bianca ended up picking Becky up, ended up dropping her with another KOD in the middle of the ring. So Bianca then ended up grabbing the scissors, and she ended up cutting Becky's hair off. So Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce, and other officials ended up running down to the ring to try and stop Bianca, but Bianca was still cutting some of Becky's hair off. Bianca ended up getting out of the ring, and Becky ended up waking up in the ring because she was passed out. Becky ended up getting up. She saw what just happened. She saw little pieces of her hair in the ring. So Becky was seated. She was throwing a fit. And we had Becky end up seating from her knees in the ring. She ended up saying that she's going to end Bianca. And the fans were chanting, "You deserve it," to Becky. And that was basically that. But Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, that match is taking place night one, this Saturday at WrestleMania. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had Sarah Schreiber backstage. She was with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was looking into a mirror. And Becky Lynch was holding some of her hair in her hands. She was still seething. And she ended up cutting Sarah Schreiber off. Becky ended up looking into the camera. She then called Bianca Belair a bitch. And then she ended up walking off. And that was that. And then we had Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. 2-on-1 handicap match. This was awful. So we had a pre-recorded backstage promo with Corbin telling Moss to hang out on the apron and watch while he teaches a lesson to McIntyre. So Moss ended up telling another bad joke, which didn't sit well with Corbin. So we had McIntyre end up booting Corbin in the face. They end up locking up. Corbin ended up shoving McIntyre. McIntyre ended up going for Corbin, but Corbin retreated out to the floor and tagged in Moss. And then basically at this point, it was just McIntyre just being down on Moss. So we had McIntyre end up wanting Corbin to come into the ring. Corbin ended up popping off the apron. Corbin pointed up at the WrestleMania sign as he backed up the ramp, which he ended up leaving Moss alone. So McIntyre ended up hitting the Claymore to Moss. And there you go. McIntyre won the match. This was a waste of time. Post-match, Corbin ended up rushing back to the ring, ended up attacking McIntyre from behind. Corbin ended up beating McIntyre down. He ended up dropping McIntyre with the end of days. And then Corbin ended up grabbing McIntyre's sword, Angela, again. He ended up grabbing the sword again. So Corbin ended up helping Moss up, and they retreated to the back with Angela with the sword, taunting McIntyre, and that was that. This is the second time Corbin and Moss have the sword, Angela. 2 times already, they steal the sword. But this was awful. And then we had Edge backstage. And he ended up saying that he had a choice to make last week. He ended up blasting Rollins with a chair and gave him another beating, which was tempting. He realized he and Styles need each other for various reasons. Edge ended up saying that Styles needed him to have the veil pulled off, to remove the veil of mediocrity, to show he's a generational talent, and remind him that he is an era-defining superstar, while he needed Styles to become who he is now, and to be turned into a blinding light, the benchmark of the company. So Edge ended up saying that they will push each other to different places, but only he will keep soaring, and Styles will stay where he is. Edge ended up saying that this will be a match for the ages at WrestleMania. Edge ended up saying that he saw it in Styles' eyes last week, and that he knows he's already roaming in Styles' head. And at WrestleMania, it will be Styles' Judgment Day. And Styles' judgment is sealed. So Edge ended up laughing. He sat back into the shadows, and that was how the segment ended. But Edge ended up coming off here. He had, Aleister Black vibes here. Malachi Black. He had a style of that here in this segment. But this is the Edge that, we all, love when he's a heel. So this was, a decent segment with Edge. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Sarah Schreiber was with AJ Styles. Sarah Schreiber ended up asking Styles for his reaction to what Edge just said. Styles ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that Edge used a lot of words to justify another cheap shot. That's his reaction. Styles ended up going on, he ended up saying that Edge has changed his look and music in an attempt to get into his head, and that the mission accomplished. So Styles ended up saying that all he has thought about is what he plans to do to Edge. He ended up saying that Edge wants to destroy him, and the feeling is mutual. Styles ended up saying that the verdict is in. He will deliver a beating to Edge at WrestleMania, one that the WWE Universe and him will never forget. So that was what Styles had to say. Main event, RKBro versus the Usos. So yeah, Rick Boogs ended up coming out. He was playing Nakamura's music. Nakamura ended up making his way out. And Nakamura and Boogs ended up heading to the ringside area. And then we had the Usos end up coming out. And then RK-Bro, Randy Orton, and Riddle end up coming out. The match started off with Orton and Jimmy. They end up going at it. Jimmy ended up finding out of the corner. Orton ended up dropping Jimmy with a cheap shot. Riddle came in, and him and Orton were double teaming on Jimmy. So both Jimmy and Jay, they ended up trying to do a double super kick to RK-Bro, but they ended up blocking it. They ended up sending the Usos out of the ring. So Orton and Riddle end up slamming Jimmy and Jay on top of the commentary table. Orton slammed Jimmy on top of the commentary table while Riddle ended up slamming Jay on the commentary table. And then we had Jimmy end up working on Orton over in the corner as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. Orton ended up delivering a clothesline to Jimmy. Orton ended up dropping Jimmy and started stomping away at him. Riddle tagged in. He ended up going for a kick to Jimmy while Orton ended up holding Jimmy. Riddle delivered a gut-wrench slam in the middle of the ring. Jimmy then got back up. He ended up ramming Riddle back into the corner. And Jay ended up coming in. He ended up decking Riddle with a right hand. So we had later on, at the end of the match, Orton ended up going for the RKO because Orton ended up hitting the second rope DDT to Jay. So Orton was going for the RKO to Jay. And the Street Profits end up coming out and they end up attacking Orton. So the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Orton and Riddle end up winning the match by disqualification. Post-match, we had RKBro and the Usos end up brawling, the Profits, the Street Profits. And Nakamura and Boogs end up getting involved. Boogs ended up pressing Jimmy above his head and dropped him over the top rope. Boogs and Jimmy end up fighting up the ramp to the back. So the Street Profits were in the ring with Orton. Riddle ended up running in. He ended up dropping Angelo Dawkins with the RKO. And Montez Ford ended up leaping off the top. He ended up coming back to his feet from a assisted RKO from Orton and Riddle. So then the fans want to see one more RKO. And they end up dropping Ford with the RKO. And then fans wanted them to hit the RKO on Dawkins, to which Orton ended up shoving Dawkins to Riddle, and Riddle ended up dropping him with the RKO. Riddle ended up dropping Dawkins. And pretty much that was how Monday Night Raw, the go-home show for Monday Night Raw, went off the air. Overall, neither team could have lost in the match here. The Usos couldn't have lost, and RKBro couldn't have lost. So, but it was a okay match here, but overall, this go-home show for Monday Night Raw was one of the worst, laziest go-home shows that WWE has done. This show was a complete clusterfuck. Absolutely awful. And it felt like a Raw SmackDown Super Show. That's what this was. Overall, just terrible show. It did nothing to get you hyped for WrestleMania this weekend. Nothing. And I just want to go over the WrestleMania card here because Night 2 of WrestleMania looks absolutely atrocious. So I just want to go over the matches that are going to be on Night 1 of WrestleMania. So Night 1, on Saturday, it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz and Logan Paul. Snoozer of a match. Take your bathroom break during that match. Drew McIntyre versus Corbin. Another bathroom break. The Usos versus Nakamura and Boogs for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. The New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland. Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. So on Wikipedia it says TBA because Vince will announce Seth's opponent on that night. But obviously it's going to be Cody Rhodes, so it's going to be Seth versus Cody. And it's going to be Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's going to be fucking awful. And then, of course, the KO show with Kevin Owens and Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I heard is going to close out Night 1. So those are all the matches on Night 1. And here we go to Night 2 on Sunday night, which this, like I said, sounds absolutely fucking atrocious. So for Night 2, we have the Fatal 4-Way Women's Tag Team match for the Women's Tag Team titles. Zelina, Vega, and Carmella versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. Anything goes match. That's going to be a snoozer of a match. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. RKBro versus the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. Triple threat for the Raw Tag Team titles. Edge versus AJ Styles, which I'm looking forward to. Should be a good match between the both of them. Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Snooze. And then the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, where it takes all to unify the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship, which, looking forward to. So out of all the matches, Edge versus AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns are the two big matches that I'm looking forward to of this WrestleMania. Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, maybe, but everything else I don't care for. So that's night 2 of WrestleMania. Looks absolutely fucking atrocious. Outside of Edge versus Styles and Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. But overall, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.